Rocky Top Insider presents the RTI Lowdown with Bob Baskerville and Chris Lowe.
Welcome. It is time for another edition of the RTI Lowdown, coming to you in various locations. I'm Bob Baskerville, joined as always by my co-host, Chris Lowe, who is in a much balmier part of the world than I'm at. He's down in Miami. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Bob. I had a lot of rain here today, but no 20-degree temperatures. I can promise you that.
Yeah. I think I might trade you right now. Although I don't love the rain, but man, it is cold back home, my friend. It is super cold, but looking forward to getting to it. We've got a lot to discuss today. But first, before we get going into that, if you're checking us out, which we always appreciate, whether it's on YouTube on the Rocky Top Insider video channel, make sure you like and subscribe us there. And also as a podcast, you may be listening to us that way, and that's fine too. We are available wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you make us one of your go-tos if you haven't already, and make sure you download us on your respective podcast provider. Like I said, got a lot to discuss today. The transfer portal has officially closed in terms of declarations, but there's still a lot of activity that went on in the last few days relative to the Tennessee Vols. But the topic of who the quarterback will be, who will be QB1 in 2026, that question remains. And that is certainly an open topic. So you can bet that we're going to talk about that. Danny White sat down for a couple interviews this week, and what he said, well, it certainly has the fan base and the media members alike talking. So we will too. And then Vol basketball has another 1-1 perfectly meh week. But the most recent loss, coming to Kentucky, no less, was a very, very bitter pill to swallow and kind of a sobering reminder of what this team really may be. We'll recap the week for Rick Barnes' gang, and the road ahead is starting to look like what it's going to be, as we head towards the tournament. But before we get started on all of that, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by the Tate Insurance Group. If you're in the market for a great locally based insurance professional to help you with your home, your car, maybe your business coverage, you don't need to look any further. It's the Tate Insurance Group. And as always, certainly appreciate their partnership with the Lowdown. So as I said, topic A, the transfer portal declaration deadline has come and gone, but the activity is still very, very much in motion, including right here for the Tennessee Vols. Tennessee continues to add strength in numbers through the portal. Now, how formidable are those new additions? We're going to discuss that. The weekend started off a little auspiciously, though, as the Vols lose a portal commit 2 days after he makes the commitment. Kick returner wide receiver Gavin Freeman had transferred from Oklahoma State. He had even signed his agreement with Tennessee, but then with Tennessee's blessing, he flipped his commitment and is now headed to Baylor. But the good news, Chris, is Tennessee rallies, and they locked down 5 new portal assets on Saturday and another one on Sunday. So a quick refresher, 30 Vols outbound now, if you include that Gavin Freeman was here for just a moment. And we now have 18 Vols incoming from the portal, including Freeman, so that net is actually 17. Chris, I look at it on the defensive side, 4 safeties, 2 cornerbacks, 1 defensive lineman, 2 edge rushers, and a linebacker. We're starting to shore up a little bit on the offensive side now with 2 offensive linemen, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and now a quarterback who just committed in the last couple of hours. So our number, like I said, is up to 17. Is that bigger than you thought we were going to have at this point?
No, I thought Tennessee would approach 20,
okay,
somewhere between 15 and 20 when it all was all said and done. And as you were reading off those positions, I was looking down at my list here, and a lot of those positions, you safety and corner and edge rushers and guys at linebacker were right there at the top of Tennessee's priority list. So they needed to go out and get those positions, and they did. They needed a quarterback, and I don't think they got they did not go out and get what you would call a high-profile quarterback in this portal. But, what is a high-profile quarterback? Sometimes guys surprise. I don't know that Trinidad Shambliss was a high-profile addition this time a year ago. They got the Staub kid from Colorado. He's played about 5 games this year. But, Bob, they needed more than anything. They needed to bring somebody else in that room where they could continue to create competition.
Yeah.
They did not need to go into next season with 2 kids who had never really played at all.
Right.
One who never played, the other who played just very, very sparingly, and certainly someone that has never started in a game before. So now you bring in Stahl from Colorado, who has played some. Granted, he's not led a football team for an entire season, but you now have 3 people that you can look at in the spring. You can evaluate. They can work with the receivers. You got all the 7-on-7s that you have to do to build chemistry in your pass game. So he comes in, you evaluate 3, you let those guys get with the receivers, build that continuity up, and then you have the spring practice and you have preseason practice to decide who's your best quarterback. And whether it's McIntyre or this kid, Staub, or I don't know that they're going to play the true freshman right off the gate. That seems far-fetched. But you have 3 to compare against each other. And probably more importantly, you have 3 that can push each other, and to create that competition, because the people you can't fool are the players. They know who's the best guy. They see him out there. Right. Who's working the hardest, who's most committed to the team, who's making the throws in practice, who's getting the ball out on time, who's got the best chemistry with the receivers. So now you've got somebody else who has played to sort of be able to make that decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's going to be something I want to talk about here in a few minutes, is just the quarterback situation at large, because I feel like I've kind of come around to just the realities of it all, and who knows if it'll be good or bad, but we'll get to that in a moment. We'll talk about some of these other new additions. So the ones, like I said, Saturday was a very, very active day for Tennessee. A lot of these guys had already made their visits, so that we knew that they were in the queue, so to speak, and it sounded like Tennessee looked pretty promising as their destination, but it was good to get them solidified. The top of the list is West Virginia offensive lineman Donovan Haslam and CeeLo, 6'3", 346 pounds. And this guy played. I mean, he started the last 5 games of the season at West Virginia, and this is a big boy right here.
Well, I think you look at Tennessee the last couple of years, and they have hit the portal hard when it comes to the offensive line. That's sort of been their route to building their offensive line. Now, David Sanders would be the exception. He was one of the top-rated, if not the top-rated tackles in America last year out of the high school ranks, and they got him, which was a big get. I think he's going to be a terrific player, and you already saw him this past year, as he got to play more and more. And I know it was disappointing for David. He had to miss those first few games early, but he's gained weight since he got on campus. He's gotten stronger, and you saw what he could do. Now you had this kid in the portal, and that's sort of what Tennessee's done. And some people want to build more through the high school ranks. Some people sort of mix and match. Tennessee's been a lot more apt to go get guys in the portal on the offensive line. And some of them have worked out better than others, but you're right. Here's a kid who's played. He had interest from a lot of schools. And I think you could never have, much like you started talking about defensive line, Bob, you could never have too many guys in the offensive line, guys who have experience. Now, I always feel like in the offensive line, which sometimes makes it harder when you're bringing in guys from the portal, is such a continuity, cohesion unit. You've got to know the guy beside you who you're playing with. I think the better offensive lines are the ones that play together for a couple of years. If your guard and your tackle, your guard and your center have played alongside each other for a couple of years, that's usually better. But in this era, you just have to go get guys. I look at Miami's offensive line. They brought in James Brockermeyer at center from TCU. I think he's the only one that's new that they brought in, that they added via the portal, and they played really well together. So, again, getting this guy early, getting him in, being able to work with some of the guys they got coming back. I thought that was a must to get at least one person that you felt like you could plug in immediately as a starter.
Totally agree. And they've got another, I believe Mathis is his name, and I'm not sure what he's already made his visit. He visited Alabama on Saturday, so I think we're waiting to see if we have a shot at that guy too. So another big piece on the offensive line if we can get that. One of the areas that we've talked about that is, at least from my perspective, has also been a little bit of an area of concern. Certainly quarterback's been top of the list, but getting some depth at running back. We lost Peyton Lewis, and Star Thomas is out of eligibility. Deshaun Bishop is a very, very nice running back, doing a great job. But as you know, in this college game, it's always good to have some depth. And when I say depth, it's guys that are going to play. They're not just going to sit on the bench. Looks like Tennessee might have gotten one in Tulane running back Javin, I think it is, or Javin Gordon. This kid has 3 years of eligibility left. In this day and age, who knows if he'll stay here for 3 more years. But as a freshman at Tulane, he had 600 yards of total offense and 6 touchdowns, and he played in every single game for Tulane. So the video looks good on him. Of course, highlight reels are just that. They're highlights, but doesn't seem like a bad acquisition for the running back room at Tennessee.
You really have to have, I think, almost 3 backs now.
I agree.
To play and make it through a season. If you're going to play, your goal is always to make the playoff, right? Well, if you're going to play 13, 14 games, it's hard to get through a season with just 2 guys. You need 3. You need guys that can play situationally, Bob. If you're trying to throw the football, you need somebody who can protect. You want somebody back there that maybe he's not a breakaway guy, but he can protect the passer. Ideally, you want to have a guy who can do all those things, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, but you need guys situationally at that position that can play and perform different roles. So almost always that means you're going to probably need 3 guys in some form or fashion. And then maybe 2 of them get the bulk of the carries.
Yeah.
And Deshaun this year, when you look at what he did, and I knew before the season that kid was destined for a big year. He's just got that something about him, and I think he'll be even better next year. But to get more, to get some added firepower, to bring in somebody else where, you have somebody in the fourth quarter that you can put in the game that you believe in, you trust in, is huge, and not have to count on the same guy or even the same 2 guys.
Yeah, agreed. And they also, it's almost going to be baptism by fire because Dwan Morris, who got a little bit of run last season as a freshman, he's in that mix as well. But there's no doubt that, this past year when we had Star Thomas and Peyton Lewis, along with Deshaun and Dwan Morris, you could tap into 4 resources here. If we're lucky right now, we're back to 3, but you're right. It's that's an area of need for sure. And I'm just encouraged to see that they've at least made one move to get another guy in that running back room. Now, you talked about pass blocking, and lo and behold, we at the tight end position this week, Tennessee loses rising sophomore Jack Van Dorselaar, who then turns around and commits to Oklahoma. And who's their new tight end coach? Jason Witten. So that one stung a little bit, but tight end was going to be an issue because past Ethan Davis and Deshaun Brame, we don't have a whole lot. They got a commitment from South Alabama transfer Trent Thomas yesterday. Another big kid, 6'5", 255. And the book on him is he played a lot for South Alabama, didn't catch many passes. He is known for pass blocking. So, again, to your point, you got to have guys. That's a factor as well at some of these positions. The ability to catch the ball at that position is going to be important. But for someone like Tennessee that already has some really good tight ends, you just might need some situational help to help aid the run game too.
With a new quarterback next year, a new starter, to me, it's more important than ever that you're going to have to be able to be a little bit more balanced than Tennessee was. And I don't mean you're going to have to run it for 200 yards a game.
Sure.
But you're going to have to be able to take some pressure off the quarterback. It won't be fair. I don't care who it is playing quarterback next year. If you're going to ask him to throw the football 38, 40 times a game, you've got to be able, and not even when I say throw the football, certainly you can use the pass game as the run game and get it to the tight end, to throw to the backs, to mix it up a little bit like that. But to think that you're going to be, hitting big plays down the field all the time, and maybe you get to that point, once you start to form that rhythm, but they've really got to do some things. And listen, Josh Heupel and Coach Halsley, they understand this a lot more than I do, but you're going to have to do some things to take the pressure off the quarterback.
Right.
And the easiest way to do that is to run the ball and to commit to running the football and being able to run the ball on the first down and be able to run the ball in the red zone. If you're backed up deep, run the ball off the goal line. And that's where, you talk about adding running backs, adding offensive linemen, couple that with the fact that you're going to have an inexperienced quarterback. So it all fits together. So I think the more pieces like this that you can get into place, tight ends, again, tight ends are on all forms. Some guys are more H-back. Some guys are glorified offensive tackles. Some guys are a little bit of a hybrid. But finding that guy who can play in line, who can split out, who can catch the football, you can bring in on jumbo packages on the goal line, those guys is certainly with what Josh wants to do in Tennessee's offense are very valuable.
Yeah, and then a couple more additions through the portal on the defensive side. Michigan cornerback Tevis Metcalf. Now if that name sounds familiar, it's probably because that's TJ Metcalf's brother. We had TJ commit a few days ago. TJ, all Big Ten defensive back. Tevis, not so much. He's played at Arkansas, spent some time at Michigan as well. Don't know, Chris, if this is one that was maybe a package deal. We were going to have to work to get him in the fold if we were wanting, big bro TJ. But again, probably worth it just from the standpoint you get another depth piece, but it also ensures you get TJ Metcalf, who was a legitimate, really strong asset for that Michigan defense.
Well, Tennessee's got to be, they need to be better on the back end on defense. And
Right.
A lot of it last year was they didn't have their two best guys for much of the year. And that, I think you take any defense, you take your two best corners off the team or 98% of the games, when you think about Gibson and McCoy, there's going to be some growing pains, and there were some. And then you bring in, they struck goal with Colton Hood. He was a terrific player. Now he's gone. You had to play guys like Redmond probably more than you wanted to, but that experience should prove valuable. But you've got to be able to bring in – I thought safety this past year, the last couple of years, that was an area that they've continued to need to upgrade. Mm-hmm. Tennessee missed way too many tackles last year, way too many tackles. And it's not just the safety position. It's not just the back end. But in open spaces, and when I hear people talking about, well, we got to get more playmakers. We got to get more playmakers. And most people, and I'm guilty of this, sort of equate that to offense. Well, you need guys in space on defense that can make plays too. Open field tackles. If you're one-on-one, with a receiver or a tight end, being able to cover that guy and break up the pass, defend the pass. And I think that's where Tennessee, even when one-on-one battles up front on the edge, when you're trying to get to the quarterback. When I say finishers and playmakers on defense, and I know that was, again, the top of Tennessee's list, to try to find and identify those guys and bring them in. But tackling, you ask me right now, Chris, where does Tennessee have to get better if they're going to have to have a chance to be a playoff team next year? Number one is they got to be more consistent and tackle better on offense, and not, give up some of the big plays and be able to get off the field, Bob, probably in certain situations that they didn't this year. I think that'd be number one. Number two, offensively, they've just got to be more consistent and they've got to be more balanced. They've got to be able to do things depending on what sort of the way that particular game dictates. And I think when you look at some of the pieces they brought in, we see 17, 18 guys in the pool, and you comb through those names and those positions, what their backgrounds are. Tennessee feels like they've checked, a lot of those boxes, and you don't know for sure until you get out there and start playing.
Right.
Certainly when you look at the positions and some of these players' backgrounds, it's pretty easy to tell what Tennessee had prioritized during this cycle.
You talked about the importance of these fortifying pieces for the defensive backfield. They added one more too, Appalachian State safety DJ Burks. And if that name sounds familiar to some of the listeners, there's local ties for this kid. He's from Maryville, and he's played the last couple of seasons at App State and has become a regular there. And he has committed to Tennessee as well. So again, to your point, Chris, just another piece to fortify what we've got at both safety and cornerback.
Yeah, and I tell you, I would. My suggestion to fans as you look at this class, portal class, is you do see some big names, guys who are really, really productive, going elsewhere. Like you saw some of the Ole Miss's best defenders, for instance, leaving. We've seen some guys at Alabama who are really good. Tennessee lost some. Arian Carter's another one to keep an eye on. I think there's still a decent chance that Tennessee can get him back. He went in the portal. He wasn't really healthy. He had turf toe that plagued him the entire last part of the season, and just never was. Those last few games was 100% healthy. So we'll see where he lands. But getting a kid like him back, who's played, who certainly knows the system, has been around that program. My advice would be not to look so much at, all right, maybe this kid only started in 3 games, or maybe he only had 300 yards rushing or 250 yards rushing. But again, go look and see some of the other schools who wanted him. Yeah. And a lot of these kids Tennessee are bringing in were wanted by many Power 4 schools. And some of those schools, SEC schools, that Tennessee's going to have to beat on the field. And the other thing we don't know is, how are these kids going to fit? Yeah. You don't know that. And that's the crapshoot part of the portal. Some of these guys are going to be great. And that's why, quite frankly, having spent the last 2 days around a lot of the Indiana staff and their players, that's what's so remarkable. What they've done is they brought in guys that fit, that have been good for the culture, the chemistry, guys that they were able to bring, that Signetti was able to bring with him from James Madison. And I think being able to nail those evaluations, not just, hey, is this guy long and rangy? Can he, get past the offensive tackle and get to the quarterback? I mean, I think a lot of us can look at that, but looking deeper and trying to figure out and talk to people how these guys fit in what we do in our system, in our locker room. And that's the part of nailing the portal, so to speak, that's a little bit of an unknown at this point, Bob.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, I think I'm guilty of that to a degree too. I mean, we talked at the beginning of this segment about Ryan Staub, who kind of wraps up the weekend haul of portal assets that Tennessee has added to the roster. You look at what he did at Colorado, and I'm kind of like, okay, whatever. But the one thing I hadn't really thought about was what you were saying too. It's like, if we're going to press on, say Joey Aguilar does not get that extra year of eligibility, and we're going to have to press on, presumably with George McIntyre and Faison Brandon, you need somebody who has some level of experience at the collegiate level, and it's nice that it's at the Power 4 level, to come in and kind of add some maturity to things, and also just kind of keep the whole process honest. So I get it. And that's a perfect example of what you were just saying, that, we can't look too deeply into, okay, well, what'd they do? I don't see big statistics here, but the fact of the matter is, for the most part, all of the super big statistical guys have already been spoken for. So with the exception of one.
Yeah. Well, it's a money thing too. I mean, I know people don't want to hear this, but you decide as a staff who's worth what, and some of the we're not far off, Bob. I know this sounds crazy. We're not far off a year or two where some quarterbacks are going to get paid $10 million to stay in college, and some of the numbers out there this year, 6.5, 7. I mean, Tennessee would have gladly paid $4 or $5 million to get Ty Simpson.
Yeah,
had he been willing to stay and not go pro. So sometimes it's, do you want to spend 4.5 for a quarterback, or do you want to take 4.5 and get a safety, an edge rusher, a left tackle, a cornerback? And those are decisions that make sort of what college football is now so much different and so much more unique than what it used to be. you really have to have an NFL type front office, guys that can evaluate, scout, and place valuations on a player, what they're worth. Tennessee is, some of it's just been bad luck. Some of it may be bad decisions, but they've spent some money on kids here the last few years that it didn't really pan out. Now, one of them's playing over on the West Coast right now, but they gave Boo Carter more money to stay. That didn't work out,
Yeah.
decision. But history, listen, hindsight's always 20/20. McCoy, they gave $1 million, right at $1 million, and the kid got hurt. Some things like that. I know it's frustrating among fans, but when something like that happens, you just can't help it. And that's the world we live in right now with free agency / portal / NIL.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And one of the things I want to rewind for a second, because one of the things I had said was there's like one guy who just entered the portal on Friday night that is a headliner. And you talked about there may be a day coming soon where $10 million may be spent on probably a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We may be getting close to that moment because Duke's Darian Mensah declared to go into the transfer portal on Friday evening. I would say he's probably a top 3 quarterback prospect in the portal, right there with Brendan Swordsby and Stan Levitt. And this guy, now based on reporting from Pete Thamel, Tennessee is not in the mix to pursue Mensah. He was quite strong at Duke, and we know that story last year. He left Tulane to go to Duke for, I believe, $4 million. And there's a lot of scuttle out there right now, Chris. I know you have to attend to it in your day job, so to speak, with On3 to sift through what's real and what's not. But there is talk that between Mensah, who they're saying has Duke standing firm on, hey, there's going to be a buyout if you do this because you signed something. They're saying they're talking about Miami being the leader in the clubhouse for Mensah. Okay. They're losing Carson Beck. They've obviously built some momentum going to the national championship game. They want to keep that momentum going. And there's chatter at this point that they're talking about between a buyout, a salary that's somewhere in the $6 million range, and then a bunch of other ancillary stuff that you could be getting into an outlay package. It wouldn't all be for Darian Mensah, but it's getting up in upwards of $10 million. And that is absolutely just mind-blowing to me to hear that.
Yeah, I think he will get, and I think Miami is where, I think that's been all the time where he was going to go. I think that's been the plan, and I would say that's probably going to happen. So, yes, I think if he does leave, and I think he will, then there's going to be some type of buyout that's owed Duke, whether he pays it, Miami pays it for him.
Yeah.
And when you get down to sort of what he's going to make, yeah, you're looking at $7-8 million.
Yeah.
Maybe, give or take. I mean, listen, the Sorsby kid that went to Texas Tech, Tennessee talked to him. He got over $5 million. Levitt certainly in that range. Miami was going to pay Ty Simpson $6.5 million. I think Ole Miss was willing to pay upward of that. I think Tennessee would have gone to $5 million for him.
Mm-hmm.
So quarterback salaries, that's what they are. Salaries are going to continue to go up. And people say, well, how sustainable is this? Or what do you see happening? What I see happening is until we get to some type of collective bargaining agreement model like the NFL has, then there's going to be no way. And listen, ADs and commissioners and all these other people that are talking right now who say, well, yeah, there is a way to enforce this. Good luck. Good luck with that. The money is so great. The toothpaste is out of the tube, pardon the pun, that these kids are all going to be able to command those kinds of salaries. Again, I know salaries. I'm being a little bit facetious, but they are salaries is what they are.
Yeah.
It's not going to just all of a sudden go away. You're not going to sort of say, all right, we're going to go back the way it was 6 years ago. So teams and schools and programs have to figure out a way to adapt and to evolve and to continue to work within these until the model is changed. And I'm not saying the model is good. It is chaotic. Okay. It is very chaotic, but it is the way it is right now. And we could sit there and say, well, School X is cheating or School Y is cheating, but they're not cheating as much as School X.
Mm-hmm.
It's one AD in the SEC told me this week. It wasn't Danny White, for the record. He said there's two truisms in college football right now. Number one, everybody is tampering. Everybody. Number two, everybody is being tampered with. And that's just, again, that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good segue, actually, to the next discussion point. And you talk about Danny White. He did speak to some select media members the past few days, which I'm going to give you my takeaway on it. It felt like he was essentially airing some of his grievances against the NCAA and their lack of enforcement on all of the programs out there that Danny is accusing, and I quote, of cheating. And, he made some comments that, he was inferring that, Tennessee's a program with integrity and that, the athletic programs here are not going to cheat like that. And there needs to be, he's been banging the drum for collective bargaining for some time now. That's no secret, right? And, one of the things he then said was, and if there aren't better guardrails in place, we just need some clarity on that, because if that's the case, then, as he put it, we'll be the New York Yankees and go out and get everyone. When I read that, I was like, buddy, it's not the Yankees anymore. It's apparently the Los Angeles Dodgers are the ones who are disrupting the market. But his point's taken. My question to you, Chris, because obviously this got, I heard it on the radio all week long once this happened, that, news came out also that Tennessee Athletics had a $16 million surplus in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't set well with people who are seeing their ticket prices go up. They hear about the talent fees. They hear about all this stuff. And meanwhile, the athletic programs, they're not, it's not like we're talking about programs that are an embarrassment or anything, but they're falling a little short right now. There's no question about it, and you compound it with Tony Vitello moving on and other things. And so everybody's looking for a reason to kind of raise hell on this topic. My question to you is, what do you feel is Danny's motivation on here? Is it something bigger than he's just pushing the collective bargaining concept? Is there, I'm speaking out of class here. This is nothing I've heard or anything else. Is this a guy that's got bigger ambition to do something besides be the athletic director at Tennessee eventually too? That's my other question, because I view it as Danny's a smart guy, and he might be looking at, there's an opportunity just given the state of disarray that is happening right now at the NCAA level.
Well, Danny's a very smart guy. Anybody who's ever had a chance to sit down and talk with him, he's a very introverted guy, but I have had talked with Danny about a number of different subjects over the years, and he is a sharp dude. But he has absolutely, I've heard it from him on ears, pushed for probably at least a year now for some model that is collective bargaining or resembles collective bargaining. He feels that's really the only way to get some of this, whatever you want to call it, cheating, chaos, tampering, unknown uncertainty that surrounds college sports right now, to bring it into some degree. It's not probably going to end all of it, but maybe it helps a lot. And maybe you have, in that model, you have a players negotiate or representation that negotiates whatever that cap is, a real cap, and every team plays by that cap, and everybody has contracts where you can't jump around. Like the Duke quarterback, for instance. If you've got a contract, you can't go play. You can't break that contract and go play the next year for Tennessee or Alabama or Miami. So I think that's the thinking in that type of model. The one thing I would say would be different is if you look at the NFL, you've got 32 owners, for each team. In the college ranks, everybody has an AD, everybody has a chancellor, but really, who are the owners? Who are the ones that are charged with generating a lot of this money?
Yeah.
The owners. And every school has, maybe some schools have 4 or 5, some have 45 that are ponying up big money, to come up with some of this cash. And I know in talking to some ADs here in Miami, Dan Radakovich from Miami was one. They feel like that the cap right now, again, the rev share cap, which is $20.5 million, Most schools in football, Bob, are using 14 or 15. Your upper tier schools to pay athletes in football. He thinks it needs to go up. Got to go up. And that's one of the ways that maybe you get out of some of these situations where schools are quote unquote tampering or are going over and above the cap with NIL, which are supposed to be regulated by the College Sports Commission. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And I think in a lot of cases, some of these deals that are happening, that it's probably impossible to enforce them. Because if people want to get around stuff like that, if I'm a donor at Texas Tech or Tennessee and I got a lot of money, and man, there's this edge rusher that we're not going to lose. We're just not going to let him go from my school to this school. Well, hey, here's another 4 or 5 million. Use it however you need to use it. Come up with some type of agreement, some kind of deal, some kind of business arrangement, whether it's fair market value or not, whatever the heck that is. And they're going to do it. So that's sort of where we are right now. But Danny has, for a while, been saying, listen, we've got to get to some type of collective model agreement. I don't know how long that is. I think you asked me, what is he trying to say? I think he's frustrated that all these steps have supposedly been taken to try to calm things down or calm the waters or create some type of uniformity. And it's not really working because people are continuing to pay large sums of money for players to play college football. It's not NIL. And I think it's just not. You're paying kids to play. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it never was going to be NIL when it got to be into the realm of recruiting. Listen, and I'm not putting this on Danny, but anybody, a fan, Danny, coaches who says, well, we at Tennessee aren't tampering. Well, guess what? I'm going to go out tomorrow. The two of us are. And we're going to both run 4.30 minute, under sub 5 miles, both of us. Do you think that's going to happen? I know I can't do it.
For me, man, you don't know.
So there's more egregious cheating.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tennessee. Now, who contacted whom? And I know there's all sorts of semantics, but listen, Tennessee talked to quarterbacks.
Right.
Sorsby family, Ty Simpson, who's reaching out to whom? I don't think that really matters. But in the theory and the spirit of tampering, that's tampering.
Yeah. No, agreed. And I think the other thing, too, we haven't talked about this, but I wanted to get your take on it is because, again, a lot of people are, feels like, the fan base in particular and some others are kind of doing the whole, man, why are we not in the mix? Like we could, this athletic department's making so much money, et cetera. Is this also a byproduct of, we can't lose sight of the fact this is an athletic program, a football program in particular, that was put on probation. And maybe that's some of this too, is maybe Danny's point is, I can't, you're right. At the end of the day, there's probably some tampering and other things going on, but maybe he's like, I can't be the New York Yankees right now because I'm not sure how to read the room entirely on what the NCAA is going to do. And meanwhile, when I say that and I'm trying to do the right thing, I'm watching other schools just kind of go unabated, basically. Nobody's getting in any trouble, at least not that we're aware of.
Yeah. We're all driving 95 and a 65 speed limit.
Yeah.
Nobody's pulling anybody over. And
yeah.
Are you going to drive 95 or are you going to drive 65 or 70? And I think that's what's going on right now. But I will say this, when you see some of these big numbers in schools that are connected with some of these transfers, LSU obviously out there, Miami's out there, Texas Tech is out there, Oregon's out there. You haven't heard as much about Alabama and Georgia.
Right.
Going out and spending massive amounts of money. They do. I think they spend it, I would say judiciously, but they're not necessarily in that market right now where they're spending the kind of cash that everybody says everybody is. Indiana's another example. I think Indiana spent more, Bob, than people would realize.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
They really have. I mean, I think they spent about $20 million, maybe a little less on their roster this year, which was less than Tennessee. I think Tennessee's somewhere probably 25, maybe north of 25. But they've spent it. Sometimes, it's how do you spend it? Who do you spend it on? How wisely do you spend it? So I think just throwing money, and I'm not trying to carry water for Danny White. Instead of just throwing money at people, go spend money on people that you feel like are going to help you win championships. And if Ty Simpson decided that, you know what, I'm a Tennessee kid, I want to play my last season at Tennessee, and Tennessee would have spent $5 million to get him, how would the fan base felt about that?
True.
And he never got in the portal, but there were clearly conversations. So I think to me, it's not, well, we're not spending enough money, we're not backing the Brinks truck. How are you doing it? How are you going about it? Who are you spending it on? I mean, Tennessee, you know what the funny thing about all this is to me? Tennessee was the very first school to jump out there and spend millions of dollars on a high school quarterback.
Right.
Nico Imaliaba. They were the first. People scream bloody murder. How can you do that? He got over $1 million when he was still in high school.
Yeah.
And if you'll remember, Tennessee was being investigated by the NCAA, and they sued the NCAA and said, no, you can't. This is all under the guise of NIL. You can't sue us. The attorney general got involved.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, everybody's cheating. So what is it? What's true and what's not true? What's somewhere in the middle? The last thing I'm going to say, I know I'm being long-winded here, is you better get in line and play the game by the rules, what they are right now. And then if they change, or they don't change, or they're tweaked, then you can adjust. But what college football is right now, Bob, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
No, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. Well said. Hey, let's take a quick break here and talk for 1 second about our sponsor. We like to do that. The Tate Insurance Group. They're your local insurance team. They are proud to call East Tennessee home. And just like our Vols, they know what it takes to overcome obstacles, to give their all, and show true volunteer spirit for our community. And they run the gamut in terms of what services they can provide, from home and auto to business coverage. They provide personal service that you can count on. And again, they care about what you care about. And I say that because this is where they live too. They're not in another market or anything else. They are right here. The Tate Insurance Group, local, trusted, always in your corner right here at home. If you want to learn more, you can go to their website, tateinsurancegroup.com. You can give them a call, area code 865-862-8233. They'll be more than happy to help. They do wonderful work, good people, good company. Go check them out, the Tate Insurance Group. Let's talk a little bit about college basketball, partly because we have to, Chris. Our guys, Tennessee.
It's a long season, Bob. It's a long season. March is what counts. Remember that.
I know. I keep saying, I'm trying to remind myself of that, but boy, it's getting hard. So Tennessee had a very, very important week. We talked about it right here last week, saying 2 home games coming up against Texas A&M, followed by Kentucky. And it was critical, in my mind, to win both of those games, ideally, because protect home court. That's what's going to be important in the SEC. And a tough week of road games will be next after the boys have a break in this upcoming week. So the Vols get back in the win column on Tuesday night. They defeated Texas A&M 87-82 in double overtime. And man, I got to say, Chris, you and I were texting on this. A win is a win, but this one was excruciating to watch, for me at least. The Vols were introduced to Bucky Ball. Bucky McMillan kind of runs a system, in my opinion. It's got some similarities to what Kim Caldwell does with the Lady Vols.
Yep.
The Vols fell down by double digits early and were clearly letting the Aggies' pressure get to them. I don't know how you were feeling at halftime, but I was not very optimistic in this one at that point.
No, they didn't handle the pressure well. I give them credit for finding a way in double overtime to win.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at it like from 1,000 feet away, boy, how they're that close to being 0-2 at home.
Yep.
This week, that and then sort of the collapse against Kentucky. It's a team that hasn't a lot of times this year finished games well. It's a team that has continued to do a couple things that I know drive Rick crazy. That's turn the basketball over. Close games, you know, down through time, man. If you're going to win close games, you got to take care of the ball, got to make your free throws, and you got to make good decisions. You know, got to make plays. I mean, let's give Kentucky credit. Kentucky made some tough shots, man.
Oh yeah,
In the last 3 or 4 of the day, and A&M, you know, that Tennessee did not lead until the very. They didn't hardly lead any in regulation until the very end, right? And
correct.
then they're able to get it done. So, you know, when you get it home, and I was thinking going back to A&M as it sort of translates to Kentucky. Well, all right, Tennessee let A&M sort of take the crowd out of the game early in that game, and Tennessee had to claw back. It was almost the opposite versus Kentucky. Tennessee gets up early, place is going crazy, great environment. They're up 60, 70 points, which is exactly what you want to do at home, which is that's part of having home court advantage, right? And it just second half. I mean, again, yeah. The fourth thing I would say about winning games and certainly close games is, man, and this is so contradictory to what Rick's teams have been, is you let someone come into your house where there's so much pride inside that program and score 50 on you in the second half.
Yeah.
If you want to point to one thing that, hey, this team has got a long ways to go. This team is not what I think all of us are used to seeing from Rick Barnes' coach basketball teams in Tennessee, is the kind of pride and toughness and wherewithal that at your place, your biggest rival, you're going to let them come into your place, your house, and light you up for 50 in the second half. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'll tell you where I netted out on Tuesday after that win against A&M, because it was, like I said, it was tough to watch. But I felt like, you know, Tennessee adjusted in the second half. They went to a smaller lineup. They put Nate Ament at the 4, running 3 guards. That worked. And it felt like they wore Texas A&M down. They go into the overtimes. Rick goes big again. And I felt that worked too, because they were getting fouled and getting to the line. And I felt like it was a gritty, not pretty, but gritty and character building win. The boys prevailed. They fought. They got the win. It felt like Nate Ament may have turned a corner, because when he moved to the 4, he looked a little more comfortable. You know, certainly when he's got some of those smaller guys on A&M guarding him, he knew he could feed off of that. So that gave me a lot of optimism coming into this Kentucky game. And boy, like you said, the first half, I got to say that Kentucky game, the first half, that's one of the better first halves I've seen from the Vols all season long. They had 6 3-pointers. They had only 5 turnovers. And for a team that's been averaging about 17 a game, it felt to me like this one, we're going to be in good shape. I mean, we were up 41-24. Jacoby Gillespie gets his second foul and leaves the game. Kind of a controversial thing, because that's, you know, Chris, you know Rick. I mean, it's tried and true. You get 2 fouls before halftime, you're going to sit. And a lot of schools don't do that. Kentucky, as a matter of fact, Denzel Aberdeen yesterday got 2 fouls early. Pope sat him for a while, but he brought him back in with about 5-6 minutes to go in the first half. And I just think that's part of the game that's changed a little bit. Kentucky scores 6 straight when Gillespie's out. Tennessee's not taking care of the ball. We hit halftime. The Vols are still up 11, but man, like you said, the second half happened and it was not pretty. Kentucky started out hitting 5 of 7 from 3-point range, and they also crashed the boards. Here's a number for you, CeeLo. Kentucky had one offensive rebound in the first half, and they didn't get it till about 4 minutes left in the half, and they ended up getting 13 of them in the second half, and that converted into 17 second chance points. And Kentucky only committed 1 turnover in the second half. Same couldn't be said for Tennessee. From that moment that Gillespie went out till the end of the game, Tennessee committed 10 of their 12 turnovers for the game. And the one that was just inexplicably bad to me, Chris, was it was less than a minute. Tennessee led this entire game. It was kind of the inverse of the Texas A&M game. But in the last 40 seconds, I think it was Jacoby that threw the ball away. And I'm not even sure what happened there. It was so bad. I don't know, man. And then last thing I'll say is free throws. The free throws started doing them in again. They've been shooting the free throws better lately. But, man, we missed some late in the game on Saturday. And that you lose a game by 2. All that stuff adds up.
Yeah, I can think of 2 or 3 misses there in the last 3 or 4 minutes that certainly points you got to have. And those free throws in the last 3 minutes a game are times about 3, as you know, compared to the rest of the game. You got to make those. Gillespie, he's had a lot on his shoulders. I've said,
Yeah.
I felt like he's probably having to do too much, and that's not a criticism of the staff or him, or sometimes he tries to do too much. Maybe it is what I might say, but he's just got a lot on him right now, and where this team is with their limitations in the backcourt, he probably has to try to do a little bit more, take care of the basketball, shoot the basketball, score the basketball, distribute, be on the other team's, typically on the other team's best or one of their best 2 perimeter players. They're asking a lot of him. And, to be a shooter, he's clearly their most effective deep shooter, and he just hasn't gotten a lot of help. I wondered before the season, when I watched him practice and sort of saw who they had, who they didn't, if they were going to be light in the backcourt. And I think they are. Now, I think without question, they felt like a lot of that they could make up with their play in the front court. It would be better and get more production and get more what I call garbage baskets around the basket, have, 4 or 5 guys that could score inside. And that just hasn't been the case. So I don't want to, I know it's easy to sort of jump off the cliff after a game like that against your rival when, let's be honest, Kentucky's owned Tennessee.
Yeah.
In Knoxville. I mean, they really have. They ought to start paying taxes. They've won so many games there recently.
I think it's their 4th straight in Knoxville.
It is what it is. And I know it hurts everybody in that program, hurts the fan base. But, Tennessee, I still think if you can get to the bottom of some of this and guys can continue to grow. And I saw Rick challenged by name several guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's 2 ways that could go, right? Sometimes when you do that, you might lose a kid for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Sometimes the kids made the right stuff, and I like to think that Rick recruits kids that are made of the right stuff. They get mad, they get pissed off, and then they bounce back, and they're better basketball players. They work harder, and so we'll see which way some of these kids go. But clearly, he's upset with some of the new. I know he mentioned the freshman class. They're happy with the freshman class. They think it's a solid nucleus. Now that's a little bit skewed because one of the main guy in that freshman class is probably going to be gone in another 15 games.
Right.
Being Nate Amon, he's going to be making the kind of money you're making, Bob, right now in the NBA.
Sure.
But I'm still not ready to just say it's over, that these guys can't get it back. We've seen some teams Tennessee's had over the last few years that I felt might have peaked too early, Bob. This team's got a lot of growth. I still think they've got the pieces in place. They've just got to get more consistency. I'm going to call a few names out here too. They've got to get more consistency out of Estrella. They desperately need him to score and be a presence in the post. They need more consistency. We've seen it in stretches from Carey, but when he gets the ball down low, he's got to be able to finish. Tennessee needs those guys to be scorers and to play consistently. And Akpara's got to be who he is.
Yeah.
He's got to get rebounds. He's got to block shots. When he gets the ball down within a foot or two, because he rarely takes anything outside of a 2-footer, he's got to finish those shots. So those guys have to play at a higher level. I think somewhere, somehow, whether it's the freshmen, whether it's some other guys, giving other guys chances, they've got to get somebody else on the perimeter that could give them some production, some scoring. So, create off the bounce, to make threes, and not have so much right now be on Gillespie's shoulders, because I think he's carrying way, whether it's his doing or just sort of the position he's in, he's having to carry way too much of the burden right now outside.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jalen Carey. To your point, he shot 3 of 12 against Kentucky. Now, and almost all those misses are at the rim. That's just unacceptable, man. And I get it. His size, he got a couple shots swatted yesterday by, Malachi Moreno, who's 7 foot tall. Jalen's 6'7", maybe 6'8". It's tougher down there, but he's also got that strength and that width, which is what usually he uses to his advantage. Didn't happen. the other thing too, and Rick said it yesterday in the press conference afterwards, was Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Mashak, if they're on that team, they don't lose that game. And I think what he's getting at is not just their grit and their team culture mindset that they had.
Mm-hmm.
They also didn't guard the perimeter worth a damn yesterday.
No,
honestly.
no.
I mean, I mentioned Denzel Aberdeen earlier. He torched them in the second half. They could not stay in front of the ball. And if that happens, this team's in deep, deep trouble, man. That's a team that's always hung their hat on elite defense to begin with, but perimeter defense, there's been none better in the country for a long time. Now, we may not be as good as we were with Zakai and Jemai. I get that. But I think what Rick saw yesterday just had to drive him crazy, man. That was very, very tough. And now they have a week off, and I think that's good. I think it's good to go ahead and regroup, because the next 2 road games, next Saturday at Alabama, followed by a road game at Georgia, and we never seem to make it easy when we go to Stegman Coliseum, CeeLo.
Well, they're good. Georgia's played really good basketball
Right.
this year. You look around the league, there's teams, Vandy, obviously, Georgia. There's some teams that maybe haven't been right up there that I think are going to be good. In Florida, I still think Florida, I said last week, when it's all said and done, they will be the best team in the SEC.
Yeah,
I really
think you're right.
They've got the talent. They've got the mix of bigs and guards. But no, we find out a lot about Tennessee. And it'll be interesting to see how Rick approaches this week.
Yeah.
Because you want to have the right mix. You certainly want to, find out who is ready to play and not fold your tents. But you also don't want to just absolutely beat them down to where you go into 2 straight road games. And you lose 2 more on the road like that, then it really gets ugly or potentially. I think Rick's teams, to me, have always been able to, when their backs have been backed up in the corner, to respond. And I think that's a sense of toughness and that steely resolve that he's made of, back from his, as I like to tell him, his hickory roots in the North Carolina mountains. And I don't think this team – I don't think he's gotten out of this team what he expected to get to this point. But I can promise you this, knowing him as I do, he ain't going to quit pushing and try to figure out the right buttons. But you got to have some leadership. I think what he meant about Mashak and Zakai is, number one, they were 2 of the best 10 defenders in college basketball.
Right.
And when you take 2 guys like that who can guard the way they can off a team, that's a tough transition, okay? Number 2, there was a toughness about those 2 kids that just permeated the entire team.
Yeah.
You take that away and it's gone. And as I look at this team right now, who are the guys on this basketball team that command the kind of presence, that can jerk a knot and somebody's, who could stand up and call people out. And we're going to find out if that type of player leadership exists on this team, because boy, they need it going into this next few, really this whole next part of the season.
I remember last summer talking to Coach when he got Jalen Carey on board, and he told me at that time, and this is already with Gillespie in tow and Ament and everything else, he said, Jalen Carey may be the most important piece to this team. And I think when I hear that, it's because of what you just said. I think maybe he saw in him, that guy's a dog, and he can be, but can he really elevate that and kind of permeate it to the rest of the team? Because he seems kind of quiet and brooding and everything else. But boy, like you said, man, they need it. This might be the softest Rick Barnes team I've seen here at Tennessee, which is saying a lot.
They may replay this clip, Bob.
Yeah.
He may replay this clip and show it to his team. Nobody in athletics likes to be called soft, but what's the old Parcells saying? You are what your record says you are.
Yeah.
The team they've had stretches this year when they've looked soft. And I do think basketball is different than a lot of sports in this way, is we still see teams figure it out in February and March, and they're not the team in March that they were in January.
Yeah.
And can this team be that kind of team? Does it have the pieces to the puzzle to be that? I mean, right now, honestly, I haven't seen that for a consistent basis to say they can be. But I don't think they lack talent. You just got to have some guys play their roles better. You got to have Ament continue to grow. You got to find ways to take some pressure off of Jacoby Gillespie. and then down low, you got to have those guys play like men.
Yeah, it's funny when UConn won their first of two titles under Danny Hurley, and don't confuse this with me saying Tennessee could win the national title, but they were 3-6 in the month of January in that first season that they won a title. So to your point, there's all's not lost, but man, we see some glaring deficiencies. We know Rick does too. So we just got to hope the boys can step up and make that better. They're going to fall out of the top 25. We predicted that last week, and somehow they stayed ranked in the AP top 25 at 24, marking 90 consecutive weeks. So I can't imagine they're going to stick around this time. So this will be the first time since 2022 that they're not a top 25 ranked team.
That's a remarkable stat. And I think it probably is a reminder during a tough stretch like this to all of us, fans, people who cover the team, college basketball country, and how consistent this program has been under Rick Barnes. I mean, I don't know how many teams can say they've been ranked in the top 25 that many straight weeks. And I know all the he's never been to the, he's only been in the Final Four, never at Tennessee. But the consistency of this program, and I think when you play at that level for so many years in a row, and all of a sudden you have a stretch like this, to me it's a reminder more than people are mad or upset, but it's a reminder more than anything is what you've had and what he's built here in Tennessee is a basketball program that has been built to last. And I just think it's way, way too premature right now to say this team's done, the season's over. Let's see how they respond and what they show, because there's going to be a lot of people on their butt, namely their head coach. Your show, this show, message boards, people that cover that team, fans, they're going to be persona non grata, when you lose to Kentucky and blow a 17-point lead. So my thing is this: let's see how this team and this staff responds going forward.
No doubt. But by the way, what you said is spot on. That 90-week streak, nobody's close to them. There's only one program ahead of them. You want to guess which one that is? It'll make total sense when you hear it.
Duke.
No, Houston. Kelvin.
Okay.
And they've done it for like over 100 weeks consecutively. But that's pretty high cotton that we're rolling in, like you said.
Yeah. So. And a team Tennessee beat this year. They've got wins like that says, hey, if they play consistently, they can win. So it's they've lost some close games, and I think back to some of the games that they just didn't finish. If they can get that figured out, play a little bit more consistently, I don't think they're that far. I don't think this is as good or complete a team as he's had.
Yeah,
I didn't think that before the season, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean they can't get hot and get some of these things fixed,
right?
And get in and get a decent draw. Sometimes draws are everything once you get into the postseason, and stay healthy and make a run. So that's why I love college basketball, is because what you do in December, January, even in early February, a lot of times it doesn't matter so much. It's what you do and where you're playing, how healthy you are, what kind of momentum you have once you get to the middle part of March.
Definitely. All right, well, let's take it home. You're in Miami, probably spending all your time at the beach, not doing any work and everything else.
That's why I'm in a hotel room right now, Bob.
Yeah, I know. But got the big game Monday night. Indiana's I think the spread's dropped a teeny bit. It was 8.5, and I think now Indiana's a 7.5 point favorite. Quickly, do you think I still think Indiana's going to win this thing, but can Miami make this a game? I think they can.
Well, I think they check the boxes that you need to beat Indiana. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They're really good up front on defense. They can rush the passer. They have a physical run game with an experienced offensive line. And if you're going to beat Indiana, you've got to figure out a way to get Mendoza off balance.
Right.
And not give him time to pick you apart down the field. Indiana's receiving core is as good as there is in the country. I mean, they're really good. And they got kids that none of those kids were highly recruited. Elijah Surratt was at St. Francis.
Yeah, D3, right?
He's 15 touchdowns. Well, the Becker kid from Nashville with the father Ryan.
Yeah.
And nobody recruited him. And but you got to get him off his keys. You got to get some pressure on him. And I think to beat Indiana, you really need to get them in a situation where they're having to play from behind. If you're having to play from behind against them, Bob, and they get you up by double digits, 10 points, they're so good at controlling the line of scrimmage and not beating themselves. They don't miss tackles. I mean, I think they haven't had a lost fumble since the first game of the season this year, Indiana. And they don't miss tackles. So I think Miami needs to get to him early, create some short fields, which they're capable of doing with their pass rush and their defense.
Yeah.
And maybe score some points like that and not have to play from behind. But no, I'm with you. I picked Indiana. Indiana hasn't beaten teams. They've beaten up on them. And I don't see why that's going to change now in the championship game.
I'm just hoping for a good game because I'm kind of fascinated I'm kind of thankful having two kind of newcomers. You know, Miami was good back in the day, but this is, and I will say the only thing that I'm thinking about is down in Miami. You'll remember this. Down in Miami back in 1984, Nebraska was a wagon, right? And they went and took on Howard Schnellenberger. And it feels like Miami was kind of like in the role that Indiana's in right now. You know what I mean? Kind of came out of nowhere back then. So we'll see. I just want a good game. That's really all. I mean, if Indiana goes out and murders them, that's going to kind of bum me out.
Yeah, that'll be a bummer for me because I've seen two great ones in a row: Georgia, Ole Miss, and then Miami, Ole Miss, or two as good college football games you're going to see. So yeah, I'm with you. I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, my friend. Well, that does it for this one. Another episode in the books. We appreciate everybody giving us a watch or listen, and make sure you, again, if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe on the Rocky Top Insider channel. If you're listening to us on podcast, make sure you download us, make us part of your normal rotation. We sure do appreciate all that support. And as always, many thanks to our great sponsor, the Tate Insurance Group. We'll be back next week to recap what is sure to be more portal news, I would imagine. Hopefully some better news to report about the basketball team. And we may even begin to weave some baseball content in as Chris, we're getting, even with the weather being freezing cold, we're getting ever closer to the season starting and actual baseball games being played at Lindsey Nelson. And
37-degree baseball, your favorite.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I don't know if I'd be there for that, but we're definitely going to be talking about it. We'll cover it for you all right here. You can keep it locked in here or on Rocky Top Insider for the best Tennessee ball coverage anywhere. Chris, appreciate you being a part of the show as always. Enjoy the game Monday night and that balmy weather down south, and be safe getting back home, okay?
I will, Bob. Thanks, man. I always look forward to Sunday nights.
Yeah, same here, man. And to you, the listeners, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we will look forward to joining you again right here next time on the Rocky Top Insider Lowdown.